You heard it, streaks are supposed to end. Legends are supposed to be dethroned. But The Undertaker's WrestleMania streak wasn't just a record, it was a threat, a message, a warning to every superstar who ever laced up their boots and thought, this time, I'm ending it. And yet, year after year, nobody did. So tell me why this still makes people mad. Because The Undertaker didn't just win matches, he built a fortress inside WrestleMania itself. Every single time the crowd thought they had him, every single time the odds looked too heavy, every single time some once-in-a-lifetime rival stepped in, the dead man rose back up like the arena belonged to him. Now you're about to hear the *** full story of Undertaker's complete WrestleMania streak from the first time it became a thing, to the moment the world realized this wasn't just dominance, it was inevitable. And yes, there's a reason I'm making you angry at the start. Because what happens in this streak feels unfair, it feels like cheating. It feels like fate refused to let anyone touch him. But it also makes you wonder, how is it even possible? So before we go any further, small question, real quick. Answer this in the comments. Trivial question 1. What do you think is harder, winning one WrestleMania streak, or staying undefeated through the pressure of every WrestleMania like it's the final boss? Go ahead. Drop your answer. And if you're already fired up, good. That means you're gonna stay to the end. The streak begins when The Undertaker became WrestleMania's nightmare. Let's set the stage. WrestleMania is supposed to crown champions. It's supposed to create moments. It's supposed to change history. But The Undertaker, he didn't just show up for history. He showed up like history was scared of him at first. People watched The Undertaker like they watched a horror movie villain. Sure, scary, brutal, unstoppable, but you still think, eventually someone will figure it out. Because that's how wrestling is supposed to work. You adapt, you counter, you find the weakness. The Undertaker's weakness never arrived. Not at WrestleMania. Not in the one place where legends either rise or get exposed. From the beginning, he treated WrestleMania like a ritual, like if you entered that ring, you weren't there to win. You were there to earn the right to lose, and that's when people began to talk about something bigger, something louder. Not just Undertaker won. Not just Undertaker looks strong. They started asking, how long can he go? Trivial question 2. In your opinion, what's the most Undertaker-like trait? His aura, his resilience, his mind games, or his ability to show up at the right moment every time? Comment 1 only. WrestleMania streak years, dominance without mercy. Now we're going to walk through the streak like a timeline of fear. Each WrestleMania match wasn't just a win, it was a statement. Every opponent came in thinking they were walking into a battle. Every opponent left feeling like they walked into a funeral. And what makes this streak so disgusting, yes, disgusting, is that it wasn't just about winning. It was about what the streak did to everyone around it. It crushed confidence. It broke momentum. It ruined game plans. It turned "we'll be ready" into "how did this even happen?" Because when you face The Undertaker at WrestleMania, you don't just face the opponent. You face the shadow of every previous WrestleMania defeat that you're inheriting from the past. It's like walking into a locked room where the rules have already been written, and you still have to figure out how to beat a man who never once followed the rules you hoped he'd follow. The early streak vibe, this is special. The first victories established a pattern. The Undertaker didn't merely win, he controlled the pace, took away options, and ended matches like he had already rehearsed the outcome. Then came the point where fans stopped celebrating another Undertaker win and started witnessing something else. Something that felt like a myth becoming real, and you can tell when a myth starts to feel real because it stops being fun to watch people challenge it. It starts being painful, because every WrestleMania opponent looked more and more like they were volunteering for a disaster. The Undertaker's streak became a universal threat. Here's the real anger. The Undertaker's WrestleMania streak became bigger than any storyline at the time. It wasn't just this feud. It wasn't just this rivalry. It wasn't just this belt. It was a force, and wrestlers began to treat WrestleMania like an exam where the answer key was The Undertaker's face. You could train. You could strategize. You could bring your best moveset. But none of that mattered if The Undertaker was already one step ahead, already reading the moment like a prophecy. He didn't just survive pressure, he weaponized it. And that's why fans started watching WrestleMania not to see who would win the main event, but to see whether The Undertaker would continue the impossible. Every year, the crowd got louder, not because they believed in hope, but because they believed in shock. Like, okay, surely this year is different. And then it wasn't. It wasn't different. It never was. The streak's most dangerous opponents, when the world's best tried to cut the dead man down once you reach the mid-to-late part of any major streak, the challenges stop being random. They become desperate. They become the best we have. They become the kinds of opponents who can't just say, "we'll try again." Because once The Undertaker has beaten enough legends, the challengers start to look like they are not trying to win. They are trying to prove the world is still logical. And if you've ever watched wrestling long enough, you know the most dangerous thing in pro wrestling isn't someone with power. It's someone with something to prove. So when top superstars stepped into WrestleMania with the streak looming like a curse, you could feel the match turning into something heavier than a story. It turned into a battle between belief and reality, the moment of no way. Not again. Let's talk about what the streak did psychologically. Every year, fans would talk themselves into a certain outcome. Maybe this is the year. Maybe The Undertaker is older. Maybe the opponent has the perfect counter. And then the match would unfold and you'd hear the crowd go from "come on" to "no, don't do this, please," because The Undertaker didn't just threaten the opponent. He threatened the idea that anyone could stop him. That's why his streak angered people. Because it made you feel powerless as a viewer. It made you feel like your belief, your favorite wrestler's chance, didn't matter. And in wrestling, that's basically blasphemy. You're not supposed to feel like the outcome is pre-written. But Undertaker did it, over and over. And after a while, the undefeated streak stopped feeling like a run. It felt like fate itself had a locked contract with the dead man. Trivial question 3. When The Undertaker's streak was on the line, what emotion hit you hardest? Fear, anger, disbelief, or hope? Comment the one that best describes your reaction. Why the streak felt like a curse more than a winning run. People love calling it magic, myth, legendary. But here's the truth, it felt like a curse because it affected everyone the same way. Whether the opponent was popular or hated, whether they had confidence or nerves, whether they were technically gifted or brute force, the streak turned their strengths into liabilities. It made their tactics feel predictable. It made their signatures feel small. And even when they looked like they had him, The Undertaker's comeback felt like it came from somewhere else. Like there wasn't just a wrestler inside that ring. There was a whole other force, something supernatural in presence, even if the world around it remained sports entertainment. That's why The Undertaker's WrestleMania streak became one of the most replayed, discussed, and analyzed runs of all time. Because it didn't just create a winning record, it created a standard, and every future WrestleMania undefeated claim had to measure itself against the dead man's shadow. The end, the pain, the reason people still get mad. Now we reach the part where everyone stops scrolling and starts listening harder. Because no matter how long a streak lasts, it has a shadow. And that shadow is the question: when it ends, will it feel fair? The Undertaker's WrestleMania streak ending wasn't just a match outcome. It was a moment that broke something in the minds of fans. Not because the loss was bad wrestling, but because the streak was a story that felt like it couldn't die. So when it finally did, it felt like someone opened the lid on a legend and found out the legend bled like everyone else. And that makes people angry, because deep down we don't want legends to be beat. We want them to be immortal. The streak represented immortality in wrestling form. So when it stopped, it left a hole, a big one. And if you're still watching right now, you probably already know why I'm talking like this, because Undertaker's streak didn't just win matches, it defined an era. It became the benchmark for impossible. And when it ended, the world had to accept a harsh reality: even undefeated forces can be stopped. But the key is this: just because it ended doesn't mean it wasn't legendary. It was legendary because of what it did before the final loss. It was legendary because it made people believe, and then it punished belief. What makes The Undertaker's streak complete even beyond the number? Let's address something important. People talk about numbers as if the streak is just math. X wins, X WrestleManias, X matches. But the complete streak is more than that. It's the consistency of the moment, the way it kept escalating, the way each match wasn't an easy ride. It was a high-pressure event where the opponent brought everything. And every time, The Undertaker either had an answer, or he created one. The Undertaker didn't just show up, he adapted in ways that made challengers feel trapped. That's why the streak has such replay value. People don't just rewatch it to see results. They rewatch it to feel the tension again. They rewatch it to watch the exact moments where hope dies slowly. And yes, that's brutal. That's also why it's unforgettable. Trivial question 4. Be honest, did The Undertaker's streak make you more excited, or more frustrated whenever he walked to the ring, knowing you'd be emotionally invested? Comment: excited, frustrated, or both. The biggest takeaway: the streak wasn't only about winning, it was about presence. If you want to truly understand why The Undertaker's WrestleMania streak was so powerful, don't focus only on his finishing moves. Focus on something harder to explain: presence. That man had the ability to make an entire arena feel like it was bracing for impact. He didn't need to speak during the match to dominate the atmosphere. He just had to be there. That's why fans were so mad when anyone challenged him late in the streak. because the challengers were brave, but The Undertaker's presence made bravery look like a sacrifice. Like, you're willing to risk your career for a chance to end the streak, even though history already proved what happens. And that's what made the streak feel so unfair, not because it was poorly booked, but because it felt inevitable. Your turn. Comment like you're angry about it because I want receipts now. We're at the end of the script, and I need comments. I don't need nice video comments. I don't need emojis only. I want opinions that make sense to you, because this streak wasn't just a record, it was an emotional ride. So here are a few comment prompts. Pick one, and answer it clearly. 1. Which WrestleMania moment from The Undertaker's streak do you think was the most terrifying? 2. Who do you think had the best chance to end it, and why? 3. When the streak ended, did you feel shock, betrayal, or respect? And one final trivial question before you go. Trivial question 5. If you could rewrite history and choose one opponent to face The Undertaker during the streak, who would you pick, and what would that opponent's one plan be? Drop it in the comments. And if you enjoyed how intense this was, make sure you share the video with someone who loves wrestling history, because they need to feel this anger too. Quick recap, no intro, just reality. Undertaker's WrestleMania streak wasn't just wins, it was dominance built around inevitability. Every year, challengers entered believing they could break the logic. Every year, The Undertaker made that logic collapse. When it ended, it felt like the world stopped being fair. Now tell me what you think. Was The Undertaker's streak perfect, or was it too unstoppable?